After the overthrow of the monarchy in Rome, the people no longer wanted power to be concentrated in the hands of one ruler. Instead, power was divided between two consuls who were elected annually and had mutual control over each other. Their actions were in turn controlled by the Senate, which consisted of representatives of noble and ancient families known as patricians. The Senate had 300 members who had a significant influence on the consuls and dealt with important state matters such as finance and foreign policy. The rest of the people had no power and were called plebeians. The impending conflict between Latium and Rome had its roots in many factors, including territorial disputes and competition for influence in the Latium region. The Latin League and other villages were convinced that Rome was their main enemy and that they should unite to resist Roman expansion. Despite being less numerous than the Latin League, Rome was much better organized and trained in military affairs. Rome was prepared for this war. Romans had more advanced weapons and military technology, which gave them a significant advantage in battles. As a result, Rome emerged victorious from this war. After it, the Latin League was shattered, and its cities were subjugated to Rome. This gave Rome the opportunity to significantly expand its territory and increase its influence over neighboring peoples. Meanwhile, the plebeians were poor and had almost no rights. But in 494 BCE, the plebeians decided to fight for their rights. They began to leave Rome as a sign of protest, which put the patricians in a difficult position.
What savages! These plebeians are bothering me, and I need to recalculate the treasury.
What are they yelling about?
They seem to want more rights.
Their job is to work, not to solve important political issues.
I'll sort it out. The people of Rome! What do you want?
Less taxes!
Conditions are better in the Bay.
We also want to have a voice in the Senate.
We are not protected!
Bene! In the name of the Senate, the Roman Republic, and the people of Rome, I hereby decree a new tax on shouting. Screw you!
We will live in Bay.
And I'm in Cumy.
Well, get out! That's all settled. Where will they go from us?
Do we have to put up with their opinion?
Apparently. Lucius, go get them. Tell them everything they want.
They were forced to make concessions and create the position of a tribune, which protected the interests of the plebeians. However, this was only the beginning of the fight for equal rights. The plebeians continued to fight for their rights and demanded the creation of laws that would be equally applicable to both patricians and plebeians. Thus, in 451 BCE, the 12 Tables were created, which became the first system of law in Rome and established common rules of conduct for all Romans, regardless of their social status. This period in the history of Rome is an example of how solidarity and the struggle for rights can lead to changes in the social order and the creation of a more just system. And the unity of Rome was expressed in the formula: Senatus Populusque Romanus. The Senate and people of Rome. SPQR. So there was a well-known abbreviation. While Rome underwent internal changes, to the north, the Etruscans were devising plans against Rome. The Etruscan cities of Veii and Tarquini began to pose a threat to Rome, fearing that Rome would become even more powerful. The Etruscans repeatedly raided Rome's border regions. In response, Rome declared war, which met with disapproval among the plebeians within Rome. It's worth noting that Etruria was a confederation of city-states, not a single state. This was the norm for the time. For example, if we look at ancient Greece, it was organized in a similar way: independent polis that could have conflicts with each other but also unite against external enemies and share a common culture. Returning to Italy. In the first conflict, the parties agreed to a 40-year truce, and Rome made no territorial gains. Meanwhile, Rome had its domestic issues, as mentioned earlier, which prevented it from fully focusing on the war. Next, Fidene, the city, becomes the bone of contention, which was increasingly falling under Veii's influence. Rome took control of Fidene in a harsh manner, after which a new truce was negotiated with Veii for 20 years. Toward the end of the century, tensions flared up again. Rome demanded compensation for the previous war's damage, which the Etruscans refused to provide. Rome wanted to go to war, but there were again problems with raising troops, as they had to fight at their own expense and share in the spoils. So, in 406 BCE, payment for military service was introduced. After overcoming opposition, Rome set its sights on Veii. The city was besieged, and the war continued until 396 BCE when the Romans treacherously entered Veii and took it under their control. The northern Etruscan cities were distracted by newcomers from the north and did not come to Veii's defense. This became a turning point in the war. A long-standing enemy of Rome was defeated, and Rome gained new territories. According to various sources, some of the conquered Etruscans were executed, some were sold into slavery, and others eventually received Roman citizenship. Now Rome could settle on new lands and relax under the warm Italian sun. But who were these mysterious newcomers that troubled the Etruscans to the north?